Throughout my readings, I learned that there has to be a specific way to take notes if we want to remember things. With this Zettelkasten method or Slipbox method, I realized that taking notes is all about writing details down in the simplest form to connect with other notes, making it easier to remember without digging deep into our subconscious. The goal is to rely on intuition to build more efficiency. That said, we want to be able to make sense of whatever complex obstacle is preventing us from seeing things through. So, taking notes isn't about gathering and rereading all the information repeatedly to remember them. It's about finding the relevancy in our readings and rewriting them in the simplest form to be easier to conceptualize and connect with any other idea we come up with. That's how we remember, enhancing our quality of life by simply taking notes. Taking down notes will improve the quality of life. Open-mindedness, first and foremost, is one of the few skills used when taking notes. It doesn't come right away, but over time, the mind expands as we search for more connections. With an open mind, it starts to work simultaneously with curiosity. Being able to ask questions and be rational allows us to understand whatever's being discussed. We must ask questions to remove any prejudiced comments or remarks. So typical questions like, what if, open up more interpretation with notes to make connections. Taking notes as a response to questions to make connections exposes its importance, creating value for each note card. When we take down notes, our abstract thoughts expand, creating more of an openness to understand concepts and theories. That said, tunnel vision shouldn't exist in note-taking. It shouldn't be ideas that are only relevant because they concur with the argument. A detailed concept or theory should prove its relevancy based on its connections, not because of its agreement. The Slipbox method, or the Zettelkasten method, is a method used to print imaginations. Methods are needed if we want to explore more of our creativity. We only allow honest exploration if restrictions are applied to the actions towards discovery. Structuring and being able to think abstractly will lead to more creativity. And the more creativity, the more we can make sense of this world. Life is like poetry. It's formal, yet transcending. If it weren't for limitations, we wouldn't flourish in our actions. And to flourish in our actions is to fully express our desires, to understand what is needed for improvement. Being creative is all about coming up with theories and going on journeys in search for answers. Creativity applies a particular demand for us to see the greater good of what we can become. Being truthful in imaginary circumstances. Be yourself, and knowing your limitations and restrictions proves acceptance to allow us to look past the horizon and enhance learning and conceptualizing connections. Baby steps. When we take notes, we take small steps that lead towards a bigger picture. It helps to keep our minds fixated on what's being presented to us at that very moment. Through trial and error, we will improve. So being in a position that flirts with failure teaches us the value of loss. When we learn to lose, we learn to win. Through failure and constant reassurance, one can see the light of day. That's why we emphasize the present moment. It shows us that a loss is temporary. It is only relevant because of the experience it has taught us. So we learn not to make the same mistakes. Change is possible when the solution appears to be simple. So take baby steps and live through the moment to be able to enjoy the journey. Breaking old habits. The improvement in life quality becomes essential when we decide to break away from our old habits. We learn to see from a different perspective and remove the ignorance of our thoughts. Everyone has a story, so what anyone says is vital to our understanding. Allowing ourselves to adopt better habits can help us develop better ideas. We expand our horizon and burst through our bubbles the mind kept us in, realizing that there is more to see in this world. It may be scary, but eventually we see that this life of ours is not to be taken for granted. This life has everything to offer, so we must become our own creative assets. Notes enhance thinking abilities. With the Zettelkasten method, a great conversation is being able to connect the dots, using different mental models to enhance the quality of our questioning and interpretation of any subject. We understand something when it's embedded into our subconscious, boosting our intuition for any given moment. It's as simple as relying on our intuition once something becomes comprehensible. Overthinking one topic starts to create confusion and contradictions. We need our thought process to be as simple as possible. When we work on our Slipbox, we build connections through different connections. We form ideas and theories that help us understand our world. It's even easier to understand ourselves the more we know. And with the Slipbox, we conjure the ability to use a simple yet effective method that removes the use of willpower. Taking notes in this way shows us that the linear process is really an illusion. There shouldn't be a start to finish format when looking for new insight. There's information all around the world. If we want to learn something, we can always jump from different times and make connections with the ideas we produce. The same thing goes for outlining and planning. It shouldn't be solely based on the outcome. It's a good thing to have goals because they do provide purpose, but understanding that the goal may not always be definite is a realization that not many people enjoy thinking of. Things constantly change. The future isn't for sure, sure. We can't paint what we don't know. We can only prepare ourselves for the moment when opportunity strikes. Making connections will improve our quality of life. We take notes to improve our quality of intuition. We begin to connect with other ideas and topics the more we enhance our knowledge. The slip box indicates that we are all somehow related to each other. All the notes taken in the slip box are connected through the complexity of knowledge. It resembles the complex world we live in, where humans are notes. We each have some sort of relevancy in this world. We each contribute to life's objectives. Our stories, our connections, our resumes, our knowledge define who we are. We are all interesting in a way, and we all have enough stories to write a novel. When we begin to think abstractly, it forces us to connect with this world. Like notes, we all contain many ideas and material to make sense of our perspective in life. As I mentioned, taking notes will improve life quality. That said, the slip box method changes perspective and it also narrows it. It becomes an act of self-reinforcing when we take notes the slip box way. This method applies a structure that helps one to think in one way, which leads to an open area of ideas. It allows creativity to come in and speak its worth. The goal of the slip box is to explain everything in simple terms. Getting the gist of it or conceptualizing what was read makes room to see it more clearly. The simplicity of the note makes everything easier to digest. We can then continue to connect with other notes without thinking too hard on one topic. The process will show that our minds knew more than what we thought. They do say less is more, so we only need to say what needs to be said. Once we get the idea of condensing our thoughts to a simple one, we can then build the enthusiasm needed to be creative. The abstract is what the slip box method is all about. It may not be the first step, but it's definitely the most important. We must remember, however, that a change in perspective may lead to new insight. We have to put ourselves in someone else's shoes to see what they see in order to understand something. Many times we assume that we know everything, that we have done all the research, but in reality, our minds ignore a lot of the outside world. If someone doesn't agree, we may assume that they're not intelligent, but they have yet to experience a situation like we have. Once we understand that, we soon realize that to understand something is to see it from a different point of view. We then narrow that perspective and we can begin the learning process. Make it a habit to ask what is not in the picture. We must ask the question, what's missing? What's not there? Or what are we disregarding when conceptualizing a thought or idea? To see what's there instead of expecting to see what's there. With practice, we learn to see everything objectively. Unbiased thoughts come across our minds so we can see the true power of the note card. Letting things come naturally without applying our own bias is what understanding really means. To see things for what they are play a crucial role in understanding. The ability to be present. When we take in notes in the slip box way, our thoughts should be rambling about ideas. Ideas we come up with in that initial moment so we can continue to make connections. It's as if light bulbs continue to light up every time we discover something new. The goal is to prevent overthinking. What we initially conceptualize should be taken forward to build off of. We can then later make tweaks to enhance our initial concept or idea. The result shouldn't be the aftermath of an indecisive decision whether this is right or not. What we feel is what we meant in that very moment. We learn through trial and error, so we continue. And if it's a mistake, we make our changes, but we allow ourselves to be present every single time because we shouldn't prevent that magic from going away. I think our intuition provides most of what we know in that very moment. Like I said, we trying to prevent overthinking. So even if we may be wrong at that moment, we later come back to it to make our tweaks or fix something up or maybe change the wording or change the phrases. So just be present when taking notes. Practice, practice, practice. Practice involves having a system and applying abstract thought. Practicing applies pressure to our mind's intuition to understand things better. When we practice, we try to obtain perfection, a non-existential concept. We reach for the skies our whole lives, assuming that we can touch what's unreachable. The real goal of practice is to keep ourselves from getting dull. We practice to prepare for any opportunity that may come along the way. Chance favors the prepared mind. So more practice, the better our intuition, which may lead us to new discoveries. So just practice.
Welcome to the stream.
And remember to keep it light and playful. Keep an open mind. Learn to have fun with the process. Too much stress will block fascinating ideas that propel us to make new connections. The right balance between seriousness and enjoyment will make the journey lukewarm. Always ask questions and staying curious through the process is one way to ensure that we keep things playful. It's not about coming up with the right question. It's about thinking of anything that connects to what is being read. The main goal is to be consistent. We don't want unnecessary stress to overwhelm the process. We allow ourselves to participate in this consistent endeavor by taking smaller, more consistent steps. We learn through trial and error. So the only way to grow is to appreciate any given moment. You get reminded that this method of note-taking proves that this world is as complex as it is, but it also makes sense. Martial arts and slipbox are interchangeable. While taking these notes, you notice that you can apply this method to many different things. It resembles a lot of different things we learn today, martial arts being one of them. This process is parallel to martial arts. Wherever there's stress, you redirect yourself to another topic that can help make other connections. The goal is to keep it as simple simple as possible, like I said, so it can be easier to comprehend whenever we return to our notes. There's multiple possibilities in martial arts. Same goes for the slip box method. But remember that this method provides a rippling effect after the note is written. Thinking critically in this process is equivalent to expanding our range of possibilities and actions in martial arts. It is not only what you see in the picture, but what you don't see that allows for more opportunity. So yeah, there's many things that you can get out of taking notes the simple way or the Zettelkasten way. It creates a more accessible environment to live by simply making life simple. We learn to go with the flow and connect with the things that we encounter. Life begins to make sense. Through this complex world, we start to understand what it means to live. When taking notes, this method will ripple its qualities onto other things that we do. So don't take it too serious, but also remember to practice if we want to keep from getting dope. You already know who it is, Mike Valentine, aka Trigger Mike, the one and only. Y'all heard it here first, alright? Y'all be easy, stay safe, and stay sharp, and stay beautiful.